My mom warned me. She's only after your money. I defended my fiancée. Then I pretended to lose everything, and her mask came off fast. I'll never forget the first time my mom said it. We were sitting in her kitchen, the one I grew up in where the smell of coffee always lingered in the air, no matter what time of day. The soft hum I was bem of the refrigerator in the background, the warmth of the sun streaming through the windows. It all felt so familiar, so comforting, but what she said shook me. She had been warning me about Victoria from the start, but I wouldn't listen. I was 34 years old, a real estate investor. Most people would think I had it all, but I didn't see it that way. I had money, sure, a lot of it, really, about $2.8 million, all tied up in properties across Texas and a few in Oklahoma, but I didn't act like a millionaire. My house was modest, 3 bedrooms in a middle-class neighborhood, and my truck was a workhorse, nothing flashy. I'd worked hard for everything I had. Nothing about me screamed wealth, and I liked it that way. But Victoria, she didn't like it that way. She looked the part. She wore expensive clothes, had designer handbags, and went to events where the champagne flowed freely. When we met 3 years ago, I was drawn to her. She was beautiful, confident, everything I thought I wanted. We met at a charity event, and right from the start, there was something about her. She liked the way I spoke, the way I carried myself. I didn't tell her much about my wealth, just that I worked in property management. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. She was more interested in the potential. I ignored the small signs at first. The way she always ordered the most expensive thing on the menu. The way she subtly hinted at the things she wanted but couldn't afford. It was all so subtle, but deep down, I felt something wasn't quite right. And then there was my mom. I don't trust her, Henry. My mom had said more times than I could count. I've been through this before. She's after your money. I'd laugh it off. Mom, you don't know her. She's different. But the warnings kept coming. When I brought Victoria over for Sunday dinner, it was the same. She was charming, laughed at my mom's jokes, complimented the food. But afterward, when we were alone, my mom pulled me aside and said, "Henry, I saw the way she looked at you when you mentioned your properties. She's after your money. You have to see it." I argued with her, told her she was wrong. But in the back of my mind, the seed had been planted. But then came the engagement. I proposed to Victoria at the same restaurant where we had our first date. She said yes, but her reaction wasn't what I expected. Instead of tears of joy, she was already thinking about the next step, the ring. The carat size, the setting, nothing was ever enough. The first crack appeared when she complained that the ring wasn't big enough. "I thought someone in your position would get me something more impressive," she said, dismissing my effort. I brushed it off at the time. After all, it was just a ring. But over the months leading up to the wedding, I began to see more. Victoria's wedding plans weren't about us. They were about appearances. She wanted an $80,000 wedding, designer everything, a destination bachelorette party. And the worst part, she didn't care how much it would cost. I tried to reason with her, to make her see that we didn't need all that to have a beautiful day. But she didn't want to hear it. "Don't you want us to start our marriage on solid financial footing?" I asked her one night. $80,000 everyone. $80,000 is more than a down payment on 2 properties that could give us financial security for years to come. She turned cold. I don't care about your stupid properties, Henry. This is the most important day of my life. Don't you want it to be perfect? That was the moment I realized I wasn't just marrying her. I was marrying a fantasy. And yet, I defended her. I kept making excuses for her. I wanted to believe it was all just misunderstandings, that she wasn't really the way my mom saw her. That night, as we fought over the wedding budget, I realized I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't keep living in denial. I made a decision, a dangerous one. I decided to test her, to see if she truly loved me or just the lifestyle I provided. So, I did it. I pretended to lose everything. I told her I was facing bankruptcy, that my investment partner had disappeared, and I was losing it all. Her reaction came faster than I expected. The mask came off. She didn't panic. She didn't comfort me. Instead, she distanced herself, coldly asking, "How did you not see this coming?" The woman I thought I loved was gone, and in her place was someone who saw me as nothing more than a means to an end. I had to know the truth before I took the next step. And I couldn't keep lying to myself. That was the first moment I truly understood what my mom had been telling me all along. After Victoria's reaction to my fake financial ruin, I thought things would settle down. I was wrong. I had believed she'd stand by me, that we could somehow navigate the mess together, but instead, the tension between us only grew. Victoria's attitude shifted almost immediately. The warmth I had once seen in her eyes was replaced by something colder, more calculating. She still showed concern, but it wasn't the kind of concern I was hoping for. Her voice, once full of affection, now sounded distant, like she was holding back than everyone. I spent the next few days trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy, but it felt like I was living in a different reality. It became clear that this wasn't the woman I'd fallen for. The one I'd defended against my mom's warnings. That woman was gone, replaced by someone whose first priority was herself. I tried to convince myself that maybe I was overreacting, that maybe this was just a phase, a reaction to the stress of everything. But deep down, I knew. She was testing me as much as I was testing her. The little things started to stand out more. She stopped asking how my day was. She no longer I was better than ever wanted to spend time with me outside of the context of our upcoming wedding or some event. It wasn't about us anymore. It was about what I could give her. She'd slip it better than everyone. She'd do these conversations about vacations, about the life we should be living, the things we should be doing. Her first comment about the wedding budget had been playful, almost a joke. But as the weeks passed, it became clear that she was serious. It wasn't just the wedding she wanted to control, but our entire future. The way she looked at money, at my wealth, started to consume everything. "Why are you so obsessed with these properties, Henry?" she asked one night, her voice sharp as we argued over the budget for our wedding. "Can't you just enjoy something without thinking about how much money you're saving? Not everything has to be about business and numbers." It stung, but I didn't respond at first. I just sat there, listening to her. For the first time, I realized that she didn't understand me. Not in the way I thought she did. It wasn't just about the money. It was about security, stability, and doing things the right way. I looked at her, trying to make her see where I was coming from. Victoria, it's not about being cheap. It's about building something real. We could have a beautiful wedding for half of what you're asking. You want to spend a fortune on one day, but I'm thinking about our future, our security. Her face hardened in response. Well, I don't want to start my marriage feeling like I'm sacrificing everything. We should live like we deserve to. Her words cut through me, even though I was expecting something like it. I had always prided myself on being responsible, on making decisions that would benefit us in the long run, but here she was, telling me that all of my careful planning, all of the sacrifices I had made, were somehow wrong, better than everyone. She didn't want to understand. She just wanted what she wanted, and nothing else mattered. Sometimes I think you're just too obsessed with your stupid properties. She added, as if the word itself was meant to hurt. Why can't we have something more than this? It hit me like a ton of bricks. I was looking for stability, for security, for something real. And all she wanted was to impress people. She was treating our relationship like a transaction. I wanted to protect what we had, but she just wanted to put on a show. I felt betrayed in that moment, but it wasn't just by her. It was by myself too, for letting it get this far. The days after that were a blur of tension and unspoken resentment. We barely spoke without arguing. Every conversation felt like it was about money or status. Never about us. Never about what I thought we could build together. Then, one day, she said something that I couldn't ignore. "What could afford this?" she said, flipping through a real estate magazine. She showed me a house in Westlake, the wealthiest neighborhood in Austin. Why do we have to live like this when we could have so much more? I stared at the picture. The gorgeous home, the manicured lawn. It was everything she wanted. But it wasn't everything I needed. I couldn't do it. I couldn't buy into her vision. I couldn't sacrifice my values, my financial principles, for the illusion of happiness that she seemed to crave. Victoria, that house costs $3 million. We don't need that. This place works. It's paid off. She looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. What's the point of being successful if you don't live like it? Why are we pretending we're not rich? Because I'm not trying to impress anyone, I said, my voice calm but firm. The goal isn't to look wealthy. It's to actually be wealthy. She just shook her head, rolling her eyes. You're so stubborn, Henry. Why can't you just relax and enjoy your success? And that was it. The final straw. I knew right then that everything I had been afraid of was coming true. She didn't care about the things that mattered. She just cared about appearances. I felt the weight of the decision settle on me. There was no going back now. I had to know the truth. And that's when I decided no more pretending. I would test her. I would see if she loved me for me, or if she loved the life I could provide. The plan was set. I would pretend to lose everything. If she stuck around, maybe there was something real. If not, I would know exactly what she was about. It wasn't a decision I made lightly, but I had to know the truth. The moment I made the decision to test Victoria, everything shifted. I knew I couldn't go back now. I had to see how far she'd go, and whether or not she truly cared for me, or if I was just the ticket to the lifestyle she wanted. It was a strange feeling, preparing for the lie. I told myself I was doing this for the right reasons, But there was a part of me that still hoped that Victoria would prove me wrong, that she would be the one to stand by me no matter what. But deep down, I knew I was about to test her loyalty in the harshest way. Everyone. I spent hours crafting the story I would tell her. I had to make it believable, convincing enough to make her react in the way I needed. I wasn't going to make it easy for her to see through. The next morning, I called Nathan. He was the only person I could trust to help me pull this off. "Men, you sure about this?" he asked. "Yeah, I need to know the truth. I can't keep living in denial." Nathan was quiet for a moment before he replied, "All right. What do you need me to do?" "I'm going to tell her that my investment partner ran off with a bunch of money. I'm going to say I'm facing foreclosures on most of my properties. It's going to look like I've lost everything." He let out a low whistle. "This is either going to be brilliant or completely insane. You realize that, right?" "I know, but I need to know if she's really in this for me, or if it's all just about the money." "Got it. I'll back you if she asks." I spent the rest of the day steeling myself. I tried to keep my mind clear, focusing on the task at hand. But it wasn't easy. Every part of me felt sick, like I was betraying both her and myself. But I pushed those feelings aside. This was the only way. That evening, when Victoria walked through the door, I was ready. I had set the stage perfectly. And I wasn't going to back down now. The tension in the air felt thick, almost palpable. "Victoria," I said, my voice steady, trying not to give anything away. "We need to talk." Her smile faltered, and she set her purse down on the counter. "What's going on?" she asked, her tone light, but I could hear the concern creeping in. I swallowed hard, looking her in the eye. "Something happened with the business. It's bad." I watched her eyes narrow, her face shifting into a concerned expression as I went on. "My investment partner disappeared. He was managing our accounts, and apparently he's been embezzling money for months, maybe even years. I'm facing foreclosures on almost everything, and my lawyer says I'm looking at potential bankruptcy." I paused for a moment, letting the words sink in. "What?" she asked, her voice trembling now, her hand going to her chest like she couldn't breathe. "You're joking, right? Please tell me you're joking." I shook my head, my chest tight. "I wish I was. I found out this morning. The bank called about missed payments on 6 properties. When I looked into it, I realized money's been disappearing for months. My partner vanished. Can't reach him. His phone's disconnected, and I can't find him anywhere." I saw her face change. Her mouth opened and closed, like she didn't know what to say. I could tell she was shocked, but there was something else there too, something I couldn't place. "How bad is it?" she asked, her voice strained. "Really bad," I answered. "I might lose everything except this house, and even that's not guaranteed. I'll probably have to sell my truck. I'm going to was better than everyone. I'm going to have to get a regular job, maybe 2, just to cover basic expenses and try to salvage something from this mess." I watched her face as she processed everything. But then, instead of the comfort I had expected, instead of any sign of concern for me, she stood up and walked to the window, her back turned to me. I could see her shoulders tense, her hands gripping the windowsill. As she stared out into the distance, she didn't say anything for what felt like forever. Then, finally, she turned around. Her eyes had changed, no longer filled with concern, but something colder, something calculating. "What exactly do you have left?" she asked. "I mean, if everything's gone, what do we have?" I took a deep breath. "Maybe this house. Maybe. Everything else is probably gone. All the rental properties, the commercial building, my savings. I'll be starting over from basically zero. Might even be worse than zero, if there are personal liability issues." I couldn't read her expression. She didn't seem angry, but she didn't seem upset either. She just seemed cold, detached. "You didn't see this coming?" she asked, her tone sharp now. "How did you let someone just steal from you? You should have been more careful." Her words stung more than I expected. I wanted to defend myself, to tell her that I hadn't been careless, but instead, I just stood there, feeling like I had no ground to stand on. "I trusted him," I said quietly. We'd been partners for years. I didn't think I needed to audit every transaction. She shook her head, her voice full of judgment. "I guess you were just careless, then." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. "It's not carelessness, Victoria. It's betrayal." She grabbed her purse and her phone from the counter. "I need some air. This is a lot to process. I'm going to stay at my place tonight. We can talk about this tomorrow." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. She walked out of the house, leaving me standing there in the silence. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about money. It never had been. It was about something deeper. Something I didn't want to admit. I had been blinded by the idea of love, blinded by my own fears and insecurities. As she walked out, I realized that I didn't even recognize the woman who had been my fiancée, and for the first time, I understood what my mom had been trying to tell me all along. The night Victoria left, I was better than everyone. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything I had known about our relationship was falling apart. I spent hours just sitting in the living room. The silence thick around me. I was better than everyone. The weight of the situation settled in as I replayed her words in my mind. How she spoke to me like I was some kind of failure. Her coldness was still fresh, like a slap across the face. She had walked out with barely a glance back, and I knew deep down that I wasn't just losing my wealth. I was losing her, and I was terrified of what that meant. I spent the entire night questioning everything I'd believed about us. Was this who she really was all along? Had I been blind to the signs? Or had I simply refused to see the truth? The next morning, as the sun began to rise, casting a soft glow through the blinds, I felt exhausted, not just physically, but mentally. The test I had set up to see if Victoria really loved me had worked. And it had been just as painful as I had feared. She didn't care about me. Not really. She cared about the life I could give her. I couldn't stand being alone in the house anymore, so I reached out to Nathan. He was the only person who understood what I was going through. He picked up on the first ring. "You good?" he asked, his voice calm but knowing. "No."
"Not really,"
I replied, feeling the weight of the words as they left my mouth. "I think I just lost everything. Not just the money, but her." "I'm sorry, man. I know you didn't want to believe it, but you had to know the truth." I paused, swallowing hard. I didn't think it would be this hard. I mean, I knew what she was about, but I didn't expect it to feel like this. Yeah, man. That's the thing with people like that. They only show you what they want you to see. And when the facade falls, there's nothing left but Well, nothing. I sat back against the couch, the weight of his words sinking in. It's like I've been living a lie. All this time. Thinking she loved me, when all she cared about was what I could give her. That's the thing with people like Victoria. Make you feel like you're enough, like everything's perfect, until the truth comes out. And then it's all about what they can get. I nodded, though Nathan couldn't see me. He was right. It wasn't just the money. It was everything that came with it. The lifestyle, the comfort, the image. I had been a pawn in her game, and I hadn't seen it until now. What am I supposed to do now? I asked him. I don't even know who I am without her, or without the life we were going to build. Nathan paused. You do know who you are, Henry. You've known all along. You've just been distracted. You're the guy who worked his ass off for everything he has. You built something real. That's who you are? Not the guy who's just a ticket to someone else's dream. His words hit me harder than I expected. I had been so focused on this relationship, on trying to make it work, that I had lost sight of what really mattered, my own values, my own sense of self. I wasn't just a means to an end. I was my own person. I can't believe I let it go this far, I said quietly. I can't believe I let her treat me like that. You're not the first man, and you won't be the last. The important part is what you do next. I took a deep breath. Nathan was right. This was the moment. I had to choose who I was going to be moving forward. I couldn't let this betrayal define me. I couldn't let her define me. That night, after a long day of thinking, I decided to call Victoria. I needed closure, if nothing else. I dialed her number, heart pounding in my chest. When she answered, her voice was cool, almost distant. Tyler, she said, a hint of surprise in her tone. What's this about? I need to talk to you, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. In person. There was a long pause. What about? You'll see. It's important. She sighed. Fine. I'll be at my place in an hour. You better not be trying to drag me into some drama, Tyler. I hung up the phone, feeling a rush of adrenaline. This was it. I had no more lies to tell, no more pretending. I had to lay everything on the table. And I knew that, after this conversation, there would be no going back. An hour later, I stood at her door, feeling a sense of finality wash over me. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I was about to find out. When she opened the door, she was dressed nicely, like she had prepared herself for some kind of confrontation. Her makeup was flawless, her hair perfectly styled. She looked nothing like the woman I had fallen in love with, the woman I thought I knew. Tyler, she said, her voice tight. What's going on? I took a deep breath. This was my moment. I had to say it. I lied about everything, I said. There was no investment partner. There was no embezzlement. I don't need to sell my properties. And I'm not going bankrupt. This was all a test. I needed to know if you love me, or if you love the life I could give you. Her face changed in an instant. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. You lied to me. Yeah, I had to. And you failed, Victoria, in record time. She stood there, speechless for a moment. Then the mask finally slipped. You're insane. This is manipulation. You're a psychopath. No, Victoria. I'm just practical. You said relationships are transactions. Well, I ran a test, and you brought nothing of value to the table except the willingness to take my money. I watched her face twist as she realized what I was saying. She didn't say anything at first, and for a moment, I thought she might actually get it, but then, with a look of contempt, she spoke. You can't do this to me. I've been telling everyone we're postponing the wedding. I'm going to look like a complete idiot now. I shook my head. No, Victoria. You were the one who chose to walk away. This was never about me. It was always about what you could get from me. I'm done. She glared at me, then turned and grabbed the ring from her finger. I'm keeping this. Consider it compensation for 3 years of my life wasted. I didn't argue with her. I turned and walked out of her apartment, leaving the past and her behind me. As I stepped into the cool night air, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't over yet, but I had just taken the first step toward reclaiming my life. The next few days were a blur. It was like the world had shifted under my feet, and I was left scrambling to find my balance. The weight of the decision I had made, the test, the confrontation with Victoria, was still heavy on my chest. I knew I had done the right thing, but that didn't make it any easier to bear. I didn't hear from her for a while. No texts, no calls, no attempts to reach out. I kept my phone on silent, unsure of what I wanted if she did. Deep down, I knew there was nothing left to salvage, but that didn't stop the small voice inside my head from wondering if maybe, just maybe, I had misjudged her. Then it came, the message from Nathan, early on a Saturday morning. Bro, you need to hear this. Jen told me something last night. I sat up, rubbing my eyes. Jen was Victoria's friend. Someone I hadn't spoken to much, but someone who was always close to her. I didn't know what Nathan was going to say, but I had a feeling it wasn't good. What's up? I typed back. Nathan didn't waste time. Jen says Victoria was crying to her last night. Apparently, she's already planning her exit strategy. Doesn't want to waste her prime years on a broke guy who can't even manage his own finances. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. It wasn't a surprise, but hearing it out loud felt like a gut-wrenching blow. I sat there in silence for a long time, staring at the message. My mind raced, a million thoughts running through it at once. How could she do this? After everything. After all we had been through. I finally typed back, trying to force some calm into my response. Anything else? Yeah, she asked Jen if she knew any guys in finance with good jobs. Nathan wrote back. She's already shopping for someone new. I felt the blood drain from my face. In a matter of days, she had already moved on, already thinking about her next move, her next opportunity. It was a slap in the face. But at the same time, it confirmed everything I had already suspected. She wasn't in this for love. She was in it for the lifestyle. You were right, Nathan added. She didn't even wait. It's like you were just a stepping stone. I let out a breath, trying to push back the anger and hurt that rose up inside me. I wasn't surprised, but that didn't make it hurt any less. I spent the rest of the day feeling numb. Victoria's betrayal was like a cold, hard truth that I couldn't escape. She had never truly loved me. She had loved what I could give her. Later that afternoon, as I sat in the living room, trying to collect my thoughts, I heard my phone buzz on the table. It was a text from Victoria. I stared at it for a long time, wondering what she could possibly say now. She had already shown her true colors, but a part of me couldn't help but wonder if maybe she'd somehow come to her senses. Maybe she'd realized her mistake. I opened the message. I think we need to talk. Can you come to my apartment tonight at 7? I hesitated. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to move on, and never look back. But the other part, the part that still had a small thread of hope tangled in it, wanted to hear her out. I wasn't sure why. Maybe I needed closure. Maybe I just wanted to hear her say the words, to hear her admit that she had been wrong. I responded. I'll be there at 7. The rest of the day dragged on. I spent hours going over everything in my mind, then everyone. Replaying the good times with Victoria, trying to remember if there had ever been a moment when I had seen her for who she really was. There were signs, I knew that now. Small things I had overlooked. The way she always expected more, never satisfied, never content. The way she acted like she was entitled to a life she hadn't earned. But I couldn't go back now. I had to see this through, for myself, even if I already knew the answer. At 7 o'clock, I walked into her apartment, feeling more resolute than I had in days. She was waiting for me, standing by the door in an outfit that looked like it had been carefully chosen, like she was preparing for something important. Her face was calm, but her eyes were guarded, like she was trying to keep her emotions in check. Tyler, come in, she said, stepping aside to let me in. I walked past her, trying not to let the anger rise to the surface. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but it wasn't the cold indifference she had shown me. We sat down, and she immediately started talking. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she said, her voice calm, but there was something in her eyes, something almost rehearsed. I think we rushed into this engagement. We're clearly at very different places in our lives, and with everything that's happened with your business situation, I think we need to pump the brakes. I stared at her, stunned. You're breaking up with me because I lost money, I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Her eyes flickered, then hardened. This isn't about money, Tyler. It's about our future. I don't think we're compatible anymore. I felt a wave of disbelief wash over me. How could she say that? Just like that? After everything we had been through? I don't understand, I said. You were fine when you thought everything was perfect. But now that things have changed, this is how you react. Her expression shifted, just for a second. A flash of irritation. Then, she was back to the cold, distant person I had come to recognize. You don't understand what I'm going through, she said. I had plans for my future, Tyler. Plans that don't involve sticking around to support someone who can't even keep his finances in check. I let the words sink in, each one like a needle in my chest. It wasn't just about money. It never had been. It was about her vision of herself, about what she wanted, and I was never a part of that vision beyond being the provider. I've learned a lot about you, I said, my voice steady now. And the truth is, I don't want to be with someone who only sees me as a paycheck. She didn't respond at first. Then she said something that hit harder than anything else. You know, I could have done so much better than you. I stood up, the finality of it hitting me like a wave. Goodbye, Victoria, I said, turning toward the door. She didn't say anything else. Wow. Walked out of her apartment, feeling a strange sense of calm. It wasn't the closure I had hoped for, but it was enough. I I knew I had made the right decision. It had been a few days since I walked out of Victoria's apartment. The silence that had followed her words still echoed in my head. Every night, I replayed the conversation over and over, trying to make sense of everything. I knew I had done the right thing, but the emotional weight of it all still felt suffocating. My phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. It was a text from Nathan. "Bro, you won't believe this. Victoria's been calling and texting from different numbers. She's freaking out. She's trying to apologize now." I stared at the screen, unsure of how to feel. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to shut it all down and move on, but another part, the part that still had lingering doubts, wondered what she could possibly say now. I thought about everything she had said to me, how she reduced our entire relationship to a business transaction. How, in the end, she was just another person looking for a way to secure her future at my expense. It wasn't just about the money. It was about who I had become in her eyes. Nothing more than a provider, a stepping stone for her to get ahead. Still, the thought of hearing from her again stirred something in me. I wasn't ready to talk to her. Not yet. But I felt like I needed to know. I texted Nathan back. "What's she saying?" Nathan's reply came quickly. "She's begging you to take her back, telling everyone she was just confused. I told her you weren't interested, but she won't stop." A part of me felt some twisted satisfaction in hearing that. She was desperate now. After everything she had done, after walking away so quickly when things got tough, now she was trying to come back. But I knew better than to fall for it. I wasn't some rebound, and I wasn't going to be manipulated back into her world. A few hours later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a voicemail. I hesitated before pressing play. I already knew what it would be: an apology, a plea for forgiveness, but I needed to hear it, needed to face it head on to fully move on. "Tyler, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I freaked out. You were right. I was wrong about everything. I love you. I never meant to hurt you. Please, just call me. We can fix this, I promise. Please don't leave me like this." I paused the message. My heart ached a little, but not in the way it had when I was with her. It was a sharp, bitter ache, one that came from realizing how easily she could flip the script, how easily she could throw out all her previous actions, as if they never mattered. I listened to the rest of the voicemail, but it didn't change anything. Her words felt empty, hollow. I deleted the message. For the first time in days, I felt something resembling peace. It wasn't relief or happiness. It was just a calm acceptance of what had happened. I thought I was better than everyone, of the reality that I couldn't keep living in a world where I was constantly testing the people I loved to see if they really cared. I couldn't keep making excuses for someone who had already shown me who they were. That night, I sat alone in my living room, a glass of whiskey in my hand, staring out the window at the city lights. I had always been cautious with my emotions, careful not to get too close, too vulnerable. But with Victoria, I had let down my guard, let her in when I knew deep down that she wasn't the right person for me. I thought about my mom, the way she had always warned me about people like Victoria. She had been right from the beginning, but I hadn't wanted to listen. I had been too blinded by the idea of love, by the fantasy of what could be. I thought about the future, about the lessons I had learned over the past few months. Maybe it was time to take things slower. Maybe it was time to stop rushing into relationships, to stop trying to force connections that weren't meant to be. The next day, I saw Victoria's name pop up on my phone again. She had called, and there was a text message attached. I didn't bother reading it. I knew exactly what it would say. I put the phone down and walked outside to clear my head. The world felt different now. The weight of the past few weeks, the deception, the heartbreak still lingered, but it was starting to fade. Slowly, I was finding my footing again. I had learned the hard way. People don't change just because you want them to. And no matter how much you want to believe that someone can love you for who you are, some people will always love what you can give them more than the person you are beneath it all. I was done with that. I wasn't going to waste any more time on someone who didn't see me for who I was. I was going to focus on what really mattered. My future, my career, my happiness. I thought about the last conversation with Victoria, the coldness that had set in. I realized I didn't need her to validate me. I didn't need her to be a part of my life to feel whole. I was stronger now, and it was time to start over. The only person who needed to be in my life, the only person I needed to focus on, was me. I took a deep breath and smiled for the first time in days. It wasn't a smile of happiness or triumph. It was a smile of peace. I had finally let go. A week passed since I last heard from Victoria. The silence was deafening in its own way. She hadn't reached out, and I hadn't called her either. I tried to move on, filling my days with work and small distractions, but it wasn't easy. Every now and then, I'd catch myself thinking about her, wondering if she was having a hard time with everything, or if she was already on to the next thing. It was the hardest thing I had ever done, walking away. But I knew it was the right choice. I had to remind myself of that whenever the doubts crept in. Then one day, as I sat at my desk working through some paperwork, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Nathan. "Hey man, you won't believe what's going on with Victoria. She's trying to date this finance guy she met through work. I think she's leading with all her demands." I felt a wave of something between disbelief and anger. After everything, after how she had treated me, she was already back to playing the same game, looking for someone else to fulfill her vision of the life she wanted. I put the phone down, shaking my head. It felt like I had seen this coming, but actually hearing it, hearing that she hadn't changed at all, hit me hard. Nathan followed up with another message. She told him she needs a luxury car, expensive trips, designer everything. He told her to get real. Apparently, she's freaking out now because she can't afford the lifestyle she's been used to. I sat there for a moment, trying to process it all. Victoria, the woman who had once claimed to love me, had shown her true colors. I wasn't surprised, but somehow, hearing this confirmed everything I had suspected. She wasn't after love. She was after the life I could give her. Nathan called shortly after. "Dude, this is crazy. She's asking Jen if you'd be willing to help her out with a small loan. She said she made a mistake and wants to fix things. I can't believe it." I let out a laugh, though it wasn't a happy one. She has some nerve. After everything, she thinks I'm just going to help her out. Nathan sounded like he was shaking his head. On the other end, apparently, she realized she can't keep living the way she's been. She's maxed out her credit cards, can't pay her rent, and her car lease is up. It's all falling apart for her. The absurdity of it all hit me like a slap in the face. Other than everyone. She had discarded me as soon as things got difficult, but now that she was struggling, she thought she could come crawling back. I had to fight the urge to call her and tell her off. But I knew better. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about her and the mess she had made for herself. Just block her, man, Nathan said, as if reading my thoughts. Don't let her back in. She's not your problem anymore. I agreed. As much as I still had a small part of me that felt bad for her, I knew that letting her back into my life would only lead to more heartache. I couldn't keep putting myself through that. I took a deep breath and turned off my phone for a while, focusing on the work in front of me. It wasn't easy to block her out, but I had to. I had to be strong enough to move on, no matter how difficult it was. The next few days passed in a haze. I stayed busy, threw myself into my work, and did my best to keep my mind occupied. But then I ran into Victoria. I was at a restaurant downtown with Nathan and a few friends for someone's birthday. We were sitting at a table near the back, laughing and catching up when I noticed her standing by the bar, looking uncomfortable. She was with a guy, but it wasn't hard to see that she wasn't paying him much attention. Her eyes kept darting around the room, and I knew immediately she was looking for me. When she finally saw me, I watched her face cycle through a series of emotions. Surprise, then hope, then anger, and finally embarrassment. I watched her try to hide it, but it was clear as day. She saw me, and I could tell she was expecting me to approach her, to reach out. But I didn't. I stayed at my table, continuing the conversation with my friends, as if nothing had changed. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me struggle. She had made her choice, and now I was making mine. I went to the restroom, and when I returned, I found her standing in the hallway, waiting for me. Her date was still at the table, looking uncomfortable, but Victoria didn't seem to care. "Tyler, can we talk?" she asked, her voice soft, almost pleading. I looked at her for a long moment. This wasn't the same woman who had promised me everything. This wasn't the woman who had stood by my side. This was a stranger, someone who had used me, and now that things were falling apart for her, she wanted another chance. I shook my head. There's nothing left to talk about. Her face faltered for a moment, but she quickly regained her composure. Made a mistake, Tyler. I didn't realize how much I'd hurt you. I love you, and I want to make things right. I almost laughed, but I didn't. Instead, I took a step back and looked her in the eye. You love the idea of me. You love the life you thought you could have with me, but you don't love me. Not really. Her eyes flickered, and I saw the truth in them. She was starting to realize. I wasn't the same person she had thought I was. You had 3 years to show me who you really were. I continued, my voice steady. And now, after everything you've done, you want me to take you back? It doesn't work like that. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then, she looked down, her face crumpling with frustration. You're just going to walk away like this? I nodded. I am. I turned and walked away without looking back. Victoria's voice called after me, but I didn't stop. I was done. I walked back to my table, where Nathan raised his glass in a silent toast. I didn't need words to know that he understood. The feeling of finality washed over me. I had made the right choice, and for the first time in weeks, I felt the weight of the past few months finally lift off my shoulders. It was over, and this time, for good. It had been a few weeks since I last saw Victoria. The emotional roller coaster had finally come to a halt, and the silence between us felt like a relief. The last conversation we had, the one where I walked away for good, still echoed in my mind, but it didn't hurt anymore. I had moved on, or at least I was starting to. The hardest part, I realized, was accepting the fact that I had allowed myself to get swept up in the fantasy, what I thought was real.
And then everyone.
I had allowed someone to get close to me, someone who didn't have my best interests at heart, and it took a toll on me. But I was learning to embrace that pain. It was part of my journey now, and it was time to let it go. I focused on my work, building my business, expanding my investments, finding ways to make myself better. Slowly, the memories of Victoria, of the false promises, faded into the background. I kept reminding myself of who I was before her, the guy who built everything from scratch, the guy who had made it on his own. I didn't need anyone else to validate that. One afternoon, while I was wrapping up some paperwork in my office, I got a call from my mom. "Hey, honey," she said, her voice warm and comforting. "How are you doing?" I smiled. "I'm good, Mom. Just keeping busy." "That's good," she replied. "I just wanted to check in. I know it's been tough with everything that happened with Victoria, but I'm proud of you. I know you don't need to hear it, but I just wanted to remind you that you're strong. You've always been strong." Her words hit me in a way I didn't expect. I was better than everyone. They reminded me of everything I had gone through, the way my mom had always been there for me, even when I didn't want to hear her warnings. I had been stubborn, thinking I knew better, but now I realized that I had to listen to the wisdom she had tried to share with me all along. "I'm glad you're here, Mom," I said, feeling a lump form in my throat. "I don't know what I would have done without you." She chuckled softly. "You would have figured it out just like you always do. But I'm glad I can be here for you. Just remember, you deserve someone who loves you for you, not for what you can give them." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "I know, Mom. I'm starting to understand that now." We talked for a few more minutes, and when I hung up, I felt lighter. It was as if the last weight I had been carrying had finally been lifted. I didn't need to keep searching for validation from others. I had everything I needed right here, in my own hands. A few days later, I ran into Nathan at a cafe. He waved as I walked in, and I made my way over to his table. "Man, I gotta say," he started, smiling. "I'm proud of you. You've been holding it together better than I expected. I didn't know how you were going to bounce back after everything, but here you are." I sat down, grateful for his support. I didn't have much choice, did I? I mean, what else was I supposed to do? Stay stuck in the past? I couldn't do that. Nathan raised his cup in a mock toast. "I get it, man. You've really shown some strength. I know it wasn't easy, but you've come out of this stronger." I smiled, but I didn't feel the need to say anything. I had learned a lot during this time. I had learned that I didn't need to rely on someone else to define my worth. I had learned that sometimes letting go was the best thing you could do for yourself. As I walked back to my car, the The weight of the past few months seemed far behind me. For the first time in a long time, I felt clear. Headed, focused on what mattered. The world seemed different somehow, brighter, more open. I wasn't looking back anymore. I was looking forward. A few days later, I saw a post on social media. It was from one of Victoria's friends, someone I didn't know well. But I recognized her name. The post was a vague message about toxic people and moving on, a thinly veiled attempt to paint herself. As a victim, I couldn't help but laugh. Though it wasn't a happy laugh. It was more of a dark recognition of how far she had fallen. The comments were a mix of people calling her out and others sympathizing with her. It was all just noise. It didn't matter to me anymore. I turned off my phone and went about my day, feeling the weight of the past slip away. By the end of the week, I found myself on a plane to Hawaii. I had promised myself that once this was all behind me, I would take a break. I was going to reconnect with the things that made me feel alive again. As I watched the plane's wings slice through the clouds, I realized that I was finally free from the past, free from the mistakes I had made, and free from the person I used to be. This was my life now. It was my future, and I was going to than everyone, and I was going to build it the way I wanted, without anyone else telling me who I should be or what I should want. The horizon stretched out before me, and for the first time in years, I felt hopeful. I was ready for whatever came next.